The hiss of a Coke can snapped through the air like a firecracker. Then came the splash. Cold soda exploded across her chest, soaking through her light gray blouse and dripping down to her waist. Her body jolted slightly from the shock, but her face didn't move. Not even a blink. Lena stood still, Coke running down her neckline. The sticky brown liquid soaked into her skin. Behind her, the office erupted in laughter. "Oh my God! Did you see her face?" Jessica Whitmore's laugh cut through the marketing floor like nails on glass. "Oops! I thought she needed something cold to wake up those budget ideas." Someone else chuckled. "Coca-Cola, the official drink of diversity hires." A white intern held up his phone, filming everything. Another voice chimed in. "Quota hire meltdown. Live from the Apex office." Still, Lena didn't speak. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stared. Her wide brown eyes locked on Jessica's smirking face. Her soaked blouse clung to her body, revealing every shiver. But her hands stayed calm at her sides. "You're just going to stand there?" Jessica sneered, stepping closer. "Not even gonna run to HR? Oh, wait, that's right. HR's busy celebrating Pride Month or whatever nonsense they're funding this week." The others laughed again. One whispered, "You know her husband's probably in jail or on food stamps." Someone added, "Nah, she probably married her cousin like they do back in the hood." They expected a reaction. Anger, tears, anything. But Lena just tilted her head slightly, as if watching a bad movie she'd already seen before. A drop of Coke slid down her chin. She wiped it away with the back of her hand. Slowly, deliberately. She turned her gaze to the intern filming her. The red record button on his iPhone glowed like a target. Still silent, Lena stepped forward. Not fast, not dramatic. Just enough to make the intern lower his phone by reflex. "You'll regret this," she said quietly, her voice calm and ice-cold. "All of you will." Jessica blinked, caught off guard. "What did you say?" But Lena was already walking away, Coke still dripping from her blouse, footsteps soft on the tile. Nobody followed her. For a moment, the laughter stopped. No one said a word as Lena reached the elevator, hit the button, and waited. Not wiping herself. Not looking back. The doors opened. She stepped in without turning around. As they closed, she said it again, this time barely audible. "You'll regret this." The lobby fell into silence. The sound of fizzing soda on linoleum was the only thing left behind. And her desk, still neatly organized, now soaked in Coke. One by one, the interns and assistants went back to their cubicles, but the air had changed. Something was off. Something felt wrong. Jessica forced another laugh. "God, she's so dramatic. She'll be back tomorrow with another Target blouse and some pity story. You'll see." But even she didn't sound convinced. Back in the elevator, Lena didn't cry. She didn't shake. She opened her phone, tapped one name, and sent a message. Now. Then she looked at her reflection in the elevator's steel wall. Hair wet, shirt ruined, dignity untouched. Her finger hovered over a second contact, but she didn't press it. She didn't have to. Because once you show people exactly who you are, once you let them choose how to treat you, they write their own ending. And she had already started the next chapter. Monday mornings were the worst. Not because of traffic, not because of deadlines, but because Lena knew exactly what waited for her when she stepped out of the elevator on the 42nd floor. The stares, the forced smiles, the silent judgment behind every "good morning." She was the only black woman in the entire department. Apex Marketing's diversity success story, as HR liked to call her at events. Except in the real office, she wasn't treated like a success, just a checkbox. 6 months ago, when she got the job, she was thrilled. A rising analyst with a double degree and experience at a major startup. She thought she'd finally made it. Until the first meeting. Jessica had walked in, scanned the room, and said, "Lena, right? Coffee's on the right. We all pitch in." Lena was holding a data report. She hadn't even been introduced yet. She laughed it off, thinking it was a simple mistake. But the next day, someone asked her if she knew how to use Excel. And the day after that, she was told her natural hair was distracting during client calls. She started straightening it again. Meetings were the worst part. She'd speak up with ideas, clear, data-backed suggestions. The room would go quiet, and then 5 minutes later, Brad or Samantha would repeat her exact point. And get praised for it. When she'd bring it up? "Oh, it's probably just a misunderstanding," HR would say. "We take diversity complaints seriously. You're not being too sensitive, are you?" The same HR team that celebrated her on Instagram every February for Black History Month. She began keeping a folder, emails, meeting recordings, notes from one-on-ones, even camera stills from the break room. It wasn't paranoia, it was survival. Every time someone said, "You speak so well," or "You don't even sound black," she smiled and saved the moment in her mind like a file. She learned to speak softly, to never appear angry, to always smile. Because a black woman in a corporate office doesn't get to show frustration. That gets labeled aggressive. And aggressive gets you fired. So she came early, stayed late, outperformed everyone in the room, on paper anyway. But it didn't matter, because none of them saw her work. They just saw her. "Lena, what are you doing this weekend?" Samantha once asked. Before she could answer, Samantha added, "Let me guess, family BBQ? I heard it's a big thing in your culture." Jessica laughed. "Bet she's got cousins in every borough." Lena just smiled. She was good at that now, smiling. But every joke, every whisper, every time they cut her off, it was fuel. Quiet, heavy fuel sitting in her chest. Waiting. At lunch, she sat alone. Not because she wanted to, but because every table filled as soon as she stood up with her tray. She once heard Brad call her the diversity table. The worst part? She wasn't even shocked anymore. When they laughed at her, she didn't flinch. When they threw Coke on her, she didn't scream. Because this wasn't about one moment. This was about everything. Every day she was told without words that she didn't belong. But she knew something they didn't. She never planned to belong. She planned to change the entire game. The Coke hadn't even dried on her shirt when the group chat lit up. "Y'all, that was wild," Brad typed, followed by 3 laughing emojis. Jessica sent a photo of Lena's soaked desk with the caption, "The diversity shower begins." Samantha added, "HR should thank us. Now they've got content for next year's poster." The photo spread like wildfire across Slack channels and private DMS. Some reacted with emojis. Others typed, "El Mao." No one said anything to stop it. In the break room, Brad replayed the video on his phone, laughing while zooming in on the moment the Coke hit her. "Bro, look at the slow-mo drip. That's peak cinema." Jessica leaned over. "Send that to me. I want to post it to my close friends." None of them noticed the cleaning lady watching from the corner. She looked away and kept mopping, pretending not to hear. Meanwhile, Lena sat in the women's restroom, door locked, blouse clinging to her back. Not crying. Just silent. Her phone buzzed, dozens of messages, but she wasn't checking Slack. She opened a different app, one no one at Apex knew she had access to. Encrypted. Discreet. Director. She typed one word. Now. Back at her desk, someone had written COKEQUEEN on a post-it and stuck it to her computer monitor. She peeled it off without a word, placed it inside a folder labeled Documentation, and slid it into her bag. Brad walked by, still filming. "Hey, Lena, we're thinking of bottling that Coke and selling it as woke tears. You in?" Jessica snorted. "Or maybe she can sell it as startup juice. Isn't that how they hustle in the Bronx?" Samantha added, "Let's just hope she doesn't sue. You know how they are, always playing the race card." Lena turned toward them slowly. She didn't look angry. She didn't even look sad. She looked focused. "You done?" she asked softly. Brad tilted his head. "Done with what?" She didn't answer. She just turned back to her desk and packed up the last of her belongings. A mug her father gave her, a notebook from her MBA program, and a gold pen she never loaned out. Jessica crossed her arms. "Wow, so dramatic. You know HR's just going to file this under cultural misunderstanding, right?" Lena didn't respond. As she walked toward the exit, Samantha called after her. "Are you really quitting over soda?" That made her pause. She turned around, eyes steady, her tone calm. "This isn't about soda," she said. "It never was." Jessica scoffed. "Then what's it about, Lena? Enlighten us." Lena smiled faintly. "It's about consequences." She left without slamming the door. No grand exit, no screaming match, just quiet power. The kind of power they'd never understand until it was too late. Once she was gone, the office felt louder, somehow more tense. Brad sat at his desk and clicked through the video again. Something about her face in that clip made him uneasy now. The calm, the stillness, the absolute certainty in her eyes. "Yo," he said to no one in particular. "What if she actually does something?" Jessica rolled her eyes. "Like what? Write a Medium post? Go viral on Black Twitter?" Samantha shifted in her chair. "She's got receipts. You know she does." Brad laughed nervously. "Whatever. Worst case, we get a slap on the wrist. HR loves us." But no one laughed with him. At exactly 1:14 p.m., Lena stepped into a quiet building downtown. Not a law firm, not a media outlet. A financial firm. She took the private elevator to the 47th floor. When the doors opened, the receptionist stood. "Mrs. King, he's expecting you." She nodded, walked down the hall, and entered a room with tall glass windows overlooking the city. A man in a dark suit turned from the skyline and smiled. "Is it time?" he asked. She nodded once. "I've got everything," she said. "They filmed themselves." He didn't smile, just tapped a folder on the table marked Apex Holdings, Strategic Intervention. Then he pulled out his phone and sent a message. And just like that, the countdown began. Back on the 42nd floor, the mood had shifted. People laughed less, whispered more. Something about Lena's exit didn't sit right. Brad was scrolling through TikTok when a red notification popped up on his screen. Email server temporarily offline. Then Slack disconnected. Then the phones cut out. Jessica raised an eyebrow. "Brad, is your internet acting weird?" He didn't respond. His screen had gone black. The lights in the hallway flickered once. Then a sound echoed through the floor. A soft ding. The elevator. Now, here was the strange part. It wasn't the regular elevator, the big gold-framed one in the middle. It was the executive elevator, the one nobody used unless you were on the board. Everyone froze. From the back of the office, Samantha whispered, "No way." The doors opened. First came two security guards, black suits, earpieces, expressionless. Then, him. A tall black man in a navy blue Tom Ford suit stepped out, adjusting his cufflink like he owned the oxygen in the room. He didn't say a word, just walked through the office with slow, steady steps. His presence made the air feel heavy. Brad stood halfway out of his chair, eyes darting between the man and Jessica. Can I help you?" Jessica asked, standing up and smoothing her blouse. He ignored her, walked straight past. His eyes scanned the office until they found the coke-stained desk. He paused there, just for a second. Then he turned to the room, voice calm but sharp. "Where is Lena?" Nobody spoke. Jessica stepped forward. "I'm sorry. Who exactly are you?" He turned to her, his face unreadable. "Her husband." You could hear the oxygen leave the room. Jessica blinked. I didn't know she was married." "She doesn't wear a ring," Samantha muttered from behind. He ignored them both. "My name is Malcolm King, chairman of King Equity Holdings. Effective as of this morning, we own 51% of Apex." Brad dropped his pen. Jessica's jaw fell open. "I'm sorry. What?" He stepped closer. "I said, we own your company." Samantha's voice cracked. "Like, the whole company?" "No," Malcolm replied. "Just the part that matters." Jessica tried to laugh. "Is this some kind of prank? Lena didn't even use her real last name." "No," he said again, eyes sharp. "She used her mother's, the name she built on her own." He turned to Brad. "You're the one who filmed her, right?" Brad stammered, It was just a joke." Malcolm didn't blink. "Security. His phone." The guard moved fast. Brad handed it over without protest. Samantha backed away, hands shaking. "We didn't mean anything by it." "Didn't mean anything?" Malcolm's tone stayed calm. "You assaulted a woman, mocked her race, broadcasted it, and laughed." Jessica stepped forward, forced a smile. "Look, maybe we got off on the wrong foot. If you're here to talk business—" "I'm not," Malcolm interrupted. "I'm here to deliver consequences." He turned back toward the elevator, where Lena had just stepped out. She was wearing a fresh shirt, hair tied back, calm, composed. Every head turned. She walked past the same people who mocked her, coke stains still fresh on the carpet. She stopped beside her husband. "Ready?" he asked. She nodded. Then she faced the office. "You thought I was powerless," she said quietly. "Because I was quiet. Because I didn't play your games." Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Jessica opened her mouth, but no words came out. Lena scanned the faces. "You recorded my pain. You made it entertainment. Now you'll remember what happens when power doesn't look like what you expect." No one spoke, because now the room wasn't laughing. Malcolm stepped forward and dropped a thick folder onto the conference table. Each page was labeled, indexed, and time-stamped. Every offensive email, every stolen idea. every joke sent behind her back, every slur whispered when they thought she wasn't listening. Jessica stared at the front cover. Apex Internal. Discrimination. Archive. 6 months. "What is this?" she asked, her voice suddenly small. Lena didn't look at her. She looked at Brad. "You recorded me, remember? Thank you. That file alone is worth a lawsuit." Brad's face turned pale. "You can't just come in here and—" Malcolm cut him off. "I can. And I have." A second man walked in behind them. Tall, gray suit, glasses, calm eyes. "This is Leonard Graves," Malcolm said. "He's legal counsel. He's also the one who just finished drafting the termination paperwork." Jessica stepped forward. "Termination for who?" Leonard calmly opened the briefcase and pulled out 3 sets of documents. Jessica Whitmore, Brad Mitchell, Samantha Chun. He laid them on the table. Immediate dismissal for cause. Multiple violations of federal workplace discrimination law. Harassment. Defamation. Retaliation. Samantha's voice cracked. "Wait, I have a family. I didn't mean—" "You did," Lena said, finally turning toward her. "You meant every word." Brad tried to laugh. "This is insane. What, are you going to sue us all?" Malcolm leaned forward. "This isn't a lawsuit. It's a surgical removal." Leonard placed another folder down. "Apex's parent company, your parent company now, will report this to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. HR records, Slack logs, WhatsApp screenshots, private emails, all admissible." Jessica backed away. "Private? That's invasion of privacy." Lena raised an eyebrow. "Like when you filmed me without consent? Or posted captions about me eating alone?" Brad suddenly remembered the Slack channel, the memes, the captions, the GIFs. "We never thought you'd actually—" he started. "Exactly," Lena cut in. "You never thought. Because you never had to." Malcolm nodded toward the hallway. A third man appeared, IT director Tom Williams. He walked in carrying a hard drive and a stack of printed logs. Tom placed them down and said, "We also recovered all deleted messages, including the group chat labeled Elite Apex. You know, the one where you joked about quota hires catching strays and called Lena the maid in disguise?" Brad put his hands on his head. Samantha sat down, lips trembling. Jessica looked at the camera in the corner of the ceiling. "There's gotta be some way to fix this." "There was," Lena said. "It was called decency." Leonard cleared his throat. Per the new majority ownership policy, any employees found guilty of violating Apex's code of conduct are not only subject to immediate dismissal, but also stock forfeiture. Jessica froze. "What?" "Your company shares," Malcolm explained. "Gone. Liquidated to fund something worthwhile." Brad snapped, "This is robbery." "No," Lena replied. "It's redistribution." Samantha tried to stand. "Please, don't do this. I didn't mean it." 6 months, Lena said coldly. 6 months of emails, texts, smirks, stolen credit for my work. 6 months of being reminded I didn't belong. And now, suddenly, you want forgiveness? Jessica finally snapped. "You think this makes you better than us? You think power gives you morality?" "No," Lena said. "Morality gives me power." Tom handed Malcolm a tablet. On the screen was a video. Brad throwing the Coke, Jessica laughing, Samantha clapping. Everyone in the room watched as it played. "I suggest," Leonard said, "you begin clearing your desks. Security is on standby." Jessica lunged toward the tablet. You can't show that. It's already been sent, Malcolm replied, to the board, to HR, to every partner company. Brad turned to the employees watching from the open area outside. You guys are just going to let this happen? Silence. Then one voice, Tom. Actually, Brad, a lot of us have been waiting for this. Brad looked around. Nobody was standing with him. No one even made eye contact. They were alone now. As security approached, Malcolm turned to Lena. Want to say the word? She shook her head. No need. They already know. Samantha stood up slowly, hands shaking. Lena, please. I was just scared. Of what? Lena asked. Being exposed or being held accountable? Jessica stared at the floor. I didn't know who you were. That was the point, Lena said. You never bothered to look. Security motioned toward the exit. The three of them hesitated, then slowly began walking toward the elevator. Brad looked back one last time. Lena didn't say goodbye. She walked to her desk, sat down, and opened her laptop like it was any other day. Because for her, it was just the beginning. An hour later, the boardroom was filled with silence, not tension, not shock, respect. Lena stood at the front of the long glass table, a single file in her hand, and eyes focused. She wore the same calm expression she'd worn while covered in coke. But now, her voice carried weight. I didn't come here to ruin careers, she said. I came to build something that can't be torn down by hate. She opened the file and placed a document on the screen behind her. The Lena King Scholarship Initiative. Funded by Apex Stock Liquidation. $25 million. Purpose: full scholarships for 500 black women in tech, business, and law. The board members exchanged stunned looks. Tom, now seated at the table, leaned forward. You're using the equity we just reclaimed? Lena nodded. Every dollar they earned on stolen credit, on slurs, on sabotage, I'm converting it into opportunity. A man near the end of the table whispered, This is bigger than Apex. It's not about Apex, Lena replied. It's about correcting a system that rewards cruelty and silences competence. She turned toward the wall behind her, where a large display now showed a collage, photos of her parents, her childhood home, a copy of her first college acceptance letter, and the gold pen her father gave her when she graduated. My parents worked their entire lives to give me a chance, she said. My father drove buses. My mother worked double shifts at the hospital. They raised me to believe I belonged in every room, and I walked into this office thinking merit would be enough. She paused. It wasn't. Not here. One board member shifted. You're saying the problem is systemic. I'm saying the system doesn't need fixing, Lena replied. It needs replacing. Malcolm stepped forward and placed a leather envelope on the table. In 6 months, Lena documented more proof of institutional bias than most federal investigations collect in years. He opened the envelope. Inside were notarized files of every complaint Lena had filed, and every dismissal she'd received. This isn't just a corporate story, Malcolm said. This is a national case study, and it starts here. Lena turned toward the large screen again. A final slide appeared. Legacy greater than revenge. Impact over ego. Justice in action. The silence was heavier now, not with guilt, with awe. Lena looked around the room. I want this building to be known for more than a logo, she said. I want it to be a launch pad for voices like mine, for women who don't get second chances, for kids who were told they're too loud, too poor, too black to succeed." Tom wiped his eyes behind his glasses. Jessica's office, already cleared. Brad's nameplate? Gone. Samantha's badge? Deactivated. But Lena's seat? It stayed empty, because she had no interest in sitting at a table that was never built for her in the first place. She walked out of the boardroom that afternoon without a promotion. She walked out with something better. Control. And not control for herself. Control over a system that once erased her voice. As she reached the lobby, a young black intern stood nervously near the front desk, gripping a notebook. She looked up. "You're Lena King, right?" Lena smiled. "I am." The intern's voice shook. I wanted to say thank you for what you did today." Lena looked her in the eyes. "No," she said gently. "What I did was long overdue." She reached into her bag, pulled out the gold pen, and handed it to the intern. "Now, it's your turn." 6 months later, the lights inside the Kennedy Center dimmed. A soft spotlight landed on the stage, where Lena stood in a sleek black gown, a calm smile on her face, and 1,000 eyes watching in silence. She wasn't there as a guest. She was the keynote speaker. The audience wasn't just filled with suits and CEOs. In the front row sat 40 young black women, all scholarship recipients, all of them watching the woman who made it possible. "I was once told I didn't belong," Lena began, "that I didn't sound the part, that I didn't look like success." She paused. Her voice never cracked. It didn't need to. They were wrong. The crowd was still. "Justice," she continued, "is not about revenge. It's about prevention. It's making sure the next girl doesn't walk into the same room and leave feeling like she's invisible." Camera flashes blinked. News anchors whispered notes. Social media lit up within seconds. Behind her on the screen, a slide appeared. The Lena King Initiative. $50 million committed. 1,200 scholarships granted. Active in 3 countries. A video began to play. Footage of her first day at Apex. The coke-stained blouse. The silent elevator ride. Her voiceover played softly. "You'll regret this. All of you will." Then applause erupted. Not the polite kind, the kind that shakes the walls. Lena bowed her head and stepped back from the mic. In the wings, Malcolm waited. "You sure you're not running for office?" he joked softly as she joined him. She laughed. "Not yet." As they walked off stage, her phone buzzed. A notification. Apex Corporation, final report filed. Status. Dissolved. Assets absorbed by King Equity Holdings. A company that once mocked her now no longer existed. In its place? An institute. A fund. A movement. Back in Manhattan, the building that once bore the Apex logo now read, "The King Center for Equity and Innovation." Inside, former offices had become classrooms. Boardrooms turned into mentorship labs. And in the very room where she was once soaked in soda and shame, a mural now covered the wall. Bold letters that read, "They threw coke on her. She built an empire." At job fairs across the U.S., companies now asked candidates if they were King certified. It became the new standard. Her impact became a case study at Harvard Business School, a documentary on Netflix, and even a question on a national scholarship exam. What does the Lena King effect mean to you? Meanwhile, Jessica Whitmore was spotted crying during a podcast interview, claiming she lost her career over a silly mistake. Brad Mitchell now worked as a delivery driver, wearing a hat low to avoid recognition. Samantha Chun moved to a remote area and shut down every social account she once used to bully others. None of them were ever hired again, because every time they applied, a digital folder landed on the employer's desk with one bold title: Flagged for documented racism. Internal Apex files attached. Lena never bragged about what she'd done. She didn't need to, because her name was now attached to opportunity, to fairness, to change. And she never raised her voice. She just made sure the world heard her anyway. As she stepped into the black car waiting outside the center, the driver passed her a sealed envelope. A letter. From a girl in Houston. It read, "Miss King, I just got my acceptance letter to Stanford. I wouldn't be here if you hadn't stood up that day. Thank you for giving me a path." Lena folded the letter and placed it next to the gold pen in her purse. She looked out the window and smiled, because they thought they were throwing coke. But they were watering the roots of a revolution.